on, let me turn off my ringer. There we go. I'm very honored to be here. Hey, there we go.
Is that my phone?
You got it right in the beginning. We'll get it out of the way right in the beginning.
When you about to say that, I said, I got a phone on over there.
Yeah.
Welcome to Tony's Backstage Pass. This is a behind the scenes of the music industry where Tony strips back the curtain and shows you what really goes on. So tune in and tune up. It's gonna be a wild ride.
Welcome to Tony's Backstage Pass. On today's episode, we actually have two parts for you. This is a travel show, so we're on the road a lot, and of course, being on the road, being musicians and cameramen and crew, we gotta eat. So of course, we stop by Mississippi's most historic restaurant, Weidmans. It's owned by a good friend of ours, Charles Frazier, and he shows us the secret to the fried green tomatoes. So enjoy. Yum. Here we are at Weidmans, downtown Meridian, Mississippi. I'm with my good friend, Charles Frazier, and wonderful lunch.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I mean, Weidmans is an institution. It's the oldest restaurant in Mississippi.
It is, 1870. 150 years this year. It's
Oh,
our
really?
sesquicentennial. Yeah.
Oh, Felix Weidmann started it.
1870, that's right.
1870 from Switzerland.
Yeah. He came
I
over
remember
on a
that.
steamship, yeah, and we think he went to Mobile or New Orleans, then found his way up on the railroad. So, it's kind of a cool thing that he started here in Meridian when it was just it was the beginning of the town, really.
It really was, yeah. And coming up on the rails, we're going to go to see Jimmy Rogers later at the grave, and everything's based on the rail system.
It is,
People don't realize how much history came to and from on that rail system, from New Orleans to New Orleans, through here, and Meridian, Mississippi, being kind of on that railway.
Yeah.
A lot of musical history, a lot of history. You're a big advocate of the arts and music. I've played here. You've let me plug in a few times.
We've even paid you.
Yeah.
Hey, how about that?
I appreciate it.
Not much, but hey, that's all right.
No, it's fun. This is a
what it
great
was.
place.
Yeah.
What I love about, not only is it the oldest restaurant in Mississippi, but what you've done with it. You've moved it into the future without losing the past. That's not easy to do. How do you kind of balance that?
It's tough. When we came in, the previous owner had kind of made it very modern, which was an ambitious thing, and I think a lot of people weren't very happy with that, I don't think. So we talked to a lot of people and kind of got a feel for what the history was, what they expected from a version of Weidmans, and we wanted to maintain that history and to honor that history, and it's very important. We're almost a repository of the city of Meridian as far as our history goes. We've got pictures dating back, 100 years, and people have been bringing families here for, well, at least 150 years, but certainly, we have people in their 90s coming in and say, I remember coming in with my grandfather, sitting on his knee at the counter and things like that. So, within their lifetimes, it's been 75, 80 years of them coming into Weidmans. And so we knew going in that it was very important that we honored that. And that's kind of, that's been our focus the whole time, is to make sure that we're honoring the past, but also trying to attract the newer generation, the younger kids. So that's really, it is a marriage and a blend of both of those things, but it's very important that we maintain that.
Well, one of the things I really respect that you've always done is when you walk through the restaurant, there's pictures of the history of Weidmans, but then you have a lot of local art. And,
we do.
And you really have been a great advocate from a musician standpoint, but also of all the arts.
Mm-hmm.
You've had many other performances, not only just musical performances stuff. You're also a big advocate in the city of Meridian.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about what you guys are doing?
Sure. My wife's an artist, so she's one of these visual artists, and she's on the Arts Council and the Museum of Art, their board as well. So she's very involved in the arts, and through that I am as well. But we do have nothing but local art on the walls, which is great. We've got a very rich kind of pool of artists to pull from, as far as different arts that we can, visual arts that we can put on the walls. And I think that there's a lot of talent in this area. We're very underrated as far as the musical talent, the visual artistic talent, but also there's a lot of writers, a lot of photographers here in town. And so it's, and that's all over the state. The state of Mississippi tends to just kind of, it's a feeder for the arts, but certainly Meridian has that as well. And so, yeah, we want to support the arts. We understand that the future of downtown Meridian, and I think of all of Meridian, is with the arts and kind of a marriage of business and art together. And so that's really what we want to do is do our little part to support the arts in whatever way that we can.
Well, and you're right in the middle.
We
of
are,
it.
yeah.
I mean, you're literally surrounded by theaters and now the Max,
Yeah.
and and that celebrates all kinds of music and arts and the history. And what you were saying, Meridian is an interesting town. I mean, I lived here 12 years, and it's this little town. I always tell people, my crew and everything, you have no idea how many famous people came from this. I don't know what's in the water here. I don't know
Sure,
what's in,
yeah.
in the dirt or whatever, but there is a plethora of, John Grisham and Celia Ward, the famous actress, and I mean, of all different types of arts and creations. And it just seems to be this, I don't even know the right word for it, this like maybe gumbo of a town where all these different things come in and it affects everything in the world.
Stop whitening your smile the old-fashioned way with strips and trays that can take 30 minutes to an hour. I'm Jonathan Greenhut, the CEO of Power Swabs. When I met Dr. Ginniker and he introduced me to Power Swabs and I saw how effective they were and how easy they were to use, I knew we had to share it with the world. Power Swabs was clinically studied to whiten natural teeth as well as stain caps, crowns, and veneers. It's so effective, it works on stains caused by coffee, tea, red wine, and even smoking. For those of you who have that one stained tooth, Power Swabs can target that area using swab precision.
I was actually able to take the swab and really get through some of those areas that are kind of like untreated. I can immediately see the shades getting brighter and brighter or whiter and whiter.
Order Power Swabs and receive up to 50% off the retail price. And as an added bonus, get a free quick stick pen with your order. Dial the number on your screen today.
Jimmy Rogers, he's considered the father of country music. So by sitting here at Weidmans in the middle of Meridian, Mississippi, downtown Meridian, Mississippi, he had to have been a party. This was here in his lifetime, and he's the father of country music, and now country music's a worldwide thing, and it came from here. That's kind of a neat thing to be in the middle, ground zero.
Yeah, right.
Of
It's
something
fertile
like
ground for
that.
the arts. It really is.
Why do you think that is so much?
I think that's true of the entire state. And, you look at the Delta and the blues and all the music and the writers that came out of there and the various other regions throughout Mississippi. And I think that we're just one of those. And so, maybe it's the hardships that people have endured here. That may be part of it. There's certainly, we have our share of poverty and people who are sort of at a certain stress level. And I think that can inspire some artistic talent. And, but I think that also we embrace the arts here. And we always have, whether that's through marching bands in high school, that's a great feeder for musicians right there. I mean,
Trombone.
There you go.
I was in a marching band.
But I think that also we do encourage the visual arts. Really we have a lot of these basic educational programs in place. And I think they have been in place for decades now. And I think that that's really inspired a lot of artists in the community.
Well, I think that's a rarity because you don't get them in schools now. Those are usually the first programs that get
It's the first
cut.
thing to go, yeah.
And here's a town that embraces and promotes it. And really, to be honest with you, I mean, you and I are transplants, so to speak, but it is generational here. It's taught throughout the generations. It's woven into their DNA. I have traveled, and this is the honest to God truth. You will see anybody on a Tuesday night playing guitar here at Weidmans or somewhere else in Meridian, Mississippi, and they're all pretty good.
Yeah.
Then you go to other parts of the world and you see somebody on a Tuesday night and you're just like, God.
It's not so good. Yeah.
Not so
yeah,
great.
You're right.
So the talent level, for whatever reason, you know what I mean? When you have a community
Sure.
that pushes that and embraces it, it raises the bar. And Mississippi tends to get overshadowed by other things, like you said, hardships and the history and this and that. But think of the gift that the state of Mississippi gave the rest of the world. I mean, they're the blues. That alone, the father of country music, right here in Meridian,
Sure.
Mississippi. I don't think that's emphasized, in my opinion, enough. And I'm someone, I make my living in the arts, so for me, it's a big deal.
It is, yeah.
And
It's interesting you say that because that hardship though is what inspires the arts. I think it's so many levels. I mean, you look at the blues and it's all about hardship. But even country music back in the day was all about riding the rails. And why do you ride the rails? Because things aren't good enough in your town. You got to see greener pastures, so to speak.
I'm always going to be telling people, there's this little place I lived in, and you got to go and check this place out. And like today at the Temple, I mean, the Temple is a gem. You just don't see
awesome.
theaters like that. They're not built that way. They don't have to be.
Well, they've all been renovated. You walk in there, it's like walking into a 1930s cinema. I mean, it's
so cool.
Unbelievable.
The culinary
So
arts.
there's another thing that we've got very strong here. And that goes back once again to hardship, though. People, kind of using the available produce and the animals that are here, and that's how you create a certain regional culinary identity,
Okay, and just the crew, the fried green tomatoes,
Good stuff. Yeah.
the 1870s sauce. I kept talking. They're like, "What's in it?" I go, "I have no idea."
You
what's
don't
in
have
it.
to know.
Yeah, but good. Yeah. You're really an excellent, and that's part of the history.
It is,
bringing
yeah.
into the next generation. Fried green tomatoes.
Yeah.
Are one of my personal favorites. We got to see how you make it, the secret of the sauce and everything.
This is a dish that goes with so many different things.
This is
You
Mississippi.
can't go wrong with it. It is Mississippi.
Mississippi on a plate.
Let me tell you a little bit about the tomatoes because it really wanted to have a tomato that stood out. We're going to do something with a little more crunch. And so what we came up with is a double breading. And that's why we pair it with a sauce like this, which is kind of a rich, robust sauce. But it's a rich and robust tomato. So they kind of pair nicely and they really complement each other. So let's dig in.
Let's try it here. Let's dig in.
And you can tell when you cut into it, it has that crunch, which you really need.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There you go. Okay. Stop by Weidmans. I'm telling you, if you're in the area of Meridian, Mississippi, have a glass of sweet tea, have some fried green tomatoes. I mean, this is, it doesn't get much better than this. Thank you so much for having
My pleasure.
us.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Appreciate it.
Want more backstage stories? Become a member of our Patreon page. You'll get access to bonus footage, full performances, swag, and special live events where you can interact with guests. This is your Backstage Pass.
Whether because of discomfort, lack of mobility, your lifestyle, or occupation, you sit inactively way too many hours a day. Introducing Ellipse, the premium quality automatic seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation without physical strain or impact.
It is so quiet that none of my coworkers even know I'm using it.
Strengthen and tone your legs, increase your mobility, flexibility, and balance. Plus, stimulate healthy circulation.
My joints feel better, my knees feel better, my back feels better. It makes me feel stronger too.
Perfect for home therapy. Whisper quiet to use while you work.
My circulation is moving, I'm burning calories, and it makes me feel energetic.
Call now and order Ellipse, the seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation. Call and get upgraded to the Deluxe Bundle. Get the faster motor or 5 miles of steps per hour, the step counter, the sport mat, and wireless remote. Call now.
On this segment, we have a seasoned recording artist and songwriter. His music has been recorded by artists all over the world. Songwriters have the ability to take a lyric and a chord that sums up our thoughts and our emotions perfectly in a song. Songs are like a time machine. You go right back to the place you were when you hear that song. Well, our guest today has written a few of those kinds of songs. He is a sought-after performer and ringleader and host of the Sucarnochee Review. He has won many music industry awards throughout his career. His songs have been recorded and performed by millions of people all over the world, but he is about as down home as it gets. Get ready to meet the man behind the songs, whose talent is as big as his smile, his faith is as strong as his handshake, and his name is so cool you gotta say it twice, Mr. Jacky Jack White. I'm very honored to be here today with a very good friend of mine, Jacky Jack White. We go way back. We haven't seen each other in a while, and this
been
is
a
our
while.
favorite thing.
Absolutely.
When I called you and I asked you to do this for me, this is really what I had in mind. This
Great.
was the only excuse why I did it, because I miss playing with you.
We've played a lot of music.
We've done a lot of stuff together, and you're one of my favorite people, not only as a musician and a writer, which I you know, you're amazing, but as a person.
Well, thank you.
As a human being. There needs to be more people like you in the world. This would be a much better world, or more Jacky Jack White.
I wish my mother was here to hear all this.
You know, and your beautiful children.
Thank
and,
you. They
and,
love you,
Yeah,
of course.
they're wonderful. So,
Right.
since we've talked, let's fill people in a little bit about who Jacky Jack White is. Some of the songs. I mean, they've heard, maybe not have heard you personally, but they've
Yeah.
heard your music.
Right.
Name a few of the songs
Well,
that you've written.
If I Didn't Love You was a huge hit over here for Steve Wariner. Then For Today did pretty well over here, but really great in England for Charley Pride. And then Neal McCoy's Mountains on the Moon was, I don't know how many albums that thing was on, which was great, thank you, Lord. And When Men Pray was a #1 gospel song. And then the biggest international hit I've ever had was Exchange of Hearts that I wrote with David Slater. And David recorded that a number of years ago, but it's
just
like a
keeps going.
standard in the Pacific Rim. It's got, I think, 71 million hits on it last time just on YouTube alone that I was counting, yeah. So
Isn't that amazing how you write these songs? And that's what a lot of my show is about, is
Right.
this behind the
Right.
scenes of the music industry.
Right.
What people don't realize is, as a writer, you write these things and you they're like children in a way. You gotta let them go in the world.
Well,
you gotta
they're-
release them and they become
I've
things.
come up with something that I've said several times recently, and I think about like, you know how a bird leaves a nest, a little baby bird, and they got those little wings, and the Bible tells me that God regards that sparrow. Well, I think he regards these songs because they've got a life and a little flight pattern all their own.
Isn't it
So
amazing?
It is amazing. And humbling
Yeah.
when you stop and think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and when you have separation from it, sometimes they come back, and you look at it
Oh.
going, "Wow!" And it takes you right back to where you were at that time, and it's all that space in between, and that's the joy. That's what I try to tell a lot of people that write. A lot of people get bogged down with the industry.
Please don't.
It has to be a hit,
Yeah, please
or it has
don't.
to be
Yeah.
in this genre.
Yeah, don't do that.
It has to be this, or
That's
they
right.
think it's a formula. It has to be so many beats per
Yeah.
minute. Just
Yeah, who wants to do
right.
that?
You
That's
don't
right.
know which ones are going to be the hits. Don't try and write a
No.
hit. Just try to
No.
write a song or a
No.
feeling.
Well, write is as honest as you can.
Yeah.
You know, Willie Nelson said that. Bill Monroe, Mr. Monroe of the Bluegrassers, he sent that message to me early on from my brother. He said, I want you to tell Jacky, write them as true to heart as you can. And, you know, at the time I was like everybody else trying to write a hit song. You know, but somehow that penetrated this skull of mine, you know, and I started thinking, well, yeah, forget about writing for who's over on the pitch page, you know, for the week, you know, who's recording. I stopped that. I just started try to write
So
it.
you can get caught up in that Nashville
Oh,
machine.
it's ridiculous. Well, you know, there's two words, music business, and the music is so much fun. It's so much gratification and enjoyment from it. And the other one is business, and business can weigh you down. Yeah.
And it can stop the creativity.
Oh, and its tracks.
Yeah. Now you have a bunch of things we've played together, and I'll explain to if people don't realize. You have hosted the Sucarnochee Review.
About
which is
17 years.
17 years.
Yeah.
I've played on it.
Right.
It's one of my favorites. We've played at the Temple Theater. We were there at the Temple earlier, and
We did it at University of West Alabama also, didn't we?
yes, we did.
Yeah,
That's right. I
right.
forgot about that.
Yeah, 'cause I did the two
That was a
venues.
great theater.
Yeah, I love that theater.
And that
yeah.
little boy that you had,
Oh.
he's a superstar.
Oh,
now,
yeah.
what was his name?
William
he looks
Michael.
like Elvis. Yeah.
William Michael Morgan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he started on
He
your
had a number
show.
one song.
Yeah.
Number one hit song.
Yeah. And that's what people don't realize.
And Benjamin Johnson and Jenna and KK, who was track 45.
Oh,
I understand.
Yeah.
Now their people has to get with my people. You know, there's that music business again.
Yeah,
But anyway, I understand that they signed a record deal, and Benjamin's written some big old songs.
Yeah.
You know, so Charlie Puth and all these guys. You know, so.
But they
They're doing
start.
great.
They got to start somewhere.
I'm not being phony when I say this. I really believe that all those people would have done well wherever they started. They just happened to have started, you know, on the show or made some of their very first starts on my show which is a great honor for us. You know, you came over, you were already established. You had already done a number of things, you know, and you were gracious enough to grace our stage.
Well,
we
had
liked
playing. We just had fun. I mean, it really was no kind of
they ought to call it instead of music business, they ought to call it music fun, appreciation.
That's the only reason why you'd call me up and I'd be like, oh, well, hanging out with Jack.
That's right.
Fun. All right. I'm there. And you also allowed me to I took a little lead from you where I had those kids that I brought.
Fantastic.
Remember Anna Blair?
I'll never forget it.
Because of your influence, you allow other artists to go, oh, you know what? That's cool. Yeah, hey, come on. She was only 16 at the time.
And what Tony may not go on to tell you is the fact that just about every one of those went to some type of music school or had some type of career themselves. Yeah. And man, I mean, that just makes you feel fantastic. And then I thought you were going to talk about the little boy who used to hang around the stage with me, Mary Mack and Henry, my children. And now Henry is 15 years old, as tall as I am. And I said, I don't think you're as tall as I am. And he goes, yeah, I've got you by the hair, because his hair is.
That's why we call him the Hawk.
The Hawk.
Yeah.
And he's like Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah,
he's Caucasian Jimi Hendrix. And he got his start hanging around Tony and loving Tony. And Tony and Jan were so nice to Henry. And he would be here today if he could get out of bed. Oh. He shares that same trait with musicians.
Yeah,
that's right. Can't get out of bed.
That's
so
awesome.
Anyway,
yeah, this was an early one for us.
That's right. That's right.
You get a little older, then the early ones aren't as it's not so bad anymore. I don't have the night befores like I had, so the mornings are much easier.
Thank goodness. Although I drove up from Nashville today.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I do appreciate it.
Glad to do it. Yeah.
Now you have some new things coming up though that we have to talk about.
Well, I got the 2 singles that you're talking about.
Yes.
I have 2 singles out right now. One is on the black music, country music guy Carl Ray. And I preface it that way because we wrote a song called I Stand With This Country. And we wrote it as a prayer because we feel like we sure need some healing and reconciliation in this country. And we're writing all these country songs, but we wrote that one. That song is getting a tremendous amount of airplay.
It's a great
and
song.
It's on television shows and things. And then I wrote, again, just writing one from the heart for Anna Grace Tamburillo. Remember the little girl used to show up every once in a while? Anna Grace, she's 20, just turned 21 2 weeks ago. And it's Waiting at the Waterfall. And I wrote that with a dear friend of mine in Mobile, Nancy Harvell. And that song is doing fantastic. And then trying to get some of this new stuff demoed. And one that I feel really good about is a song. It's kind of a pop song called Can't Look Away that I wrote with Carl Ray and with Shannon Dearman. I think that's going to be a really big song.
Oh, nice.
So thank you, Lord.
But and now that's a good point I want to bring up to a lot of people who are watching this. You never stop. You're constantly going. This isn't, you know what I mean? When you write, writers like that right. Writers write always.
Right.
It's so true.
Yeah.
And as long as I've known you, and even the few songs we've done together and stuff, it's a constant, now I'm doing this night. And you can be affected by what's going on in the world. You just got to know how to challenge it. And you've done it for so long now. Now you have it down to science.
I was around some of the most fantastic songwriters who have ever lived and was influenced by of course, Cindy Walker, who was one of the dearest friends I ever had, and then Roger Miller and Tom T. Hall and people like that. And, Tom T. Hall still writes every day, I guess. And that's the way I did. I disciplined to write every day, but now I'm much more of a binge writer. And I'm not sad about that. I'll kind of prefer it that way. I get on a roll and I feel good about writing, and so I'm more of a binge writer now,
I'm that way too sometimes. Sometimes I write a bunch of stuff, I can't get it out fast enough, and then I'll go weeks, nothing.
Yeah. Sometimes we can't afford to be binge writers because we got people that say we do want something, you know. So, but anyway.
Yeah, you gotta learn to spread it out.
You would hear bullets whizzing by, and we'd always say, well, it's the bullet that you don't hear that's coming straight at you. So thank God you heard the bullet go by. The worst thing is seeing the Humvees coming back, going to the morgue, bringing the pieces of the bodies from the group. that just killed me inside. And it was so hard to even look at. The nightmares were horrible for many, many months. They were unbearable, just sweating, just waking up screaming. Something would happen and I would just weep and go into a depressive state.
For more information, please visit www.guitarsforvets.org. That's guitar with an S, the number 4, vets.org.
Well, you know what? The last time we were together, I was telling the crew this, that we played this one song. And it's not a song that either of us have wrote, but it's just a great song.
Fun.
And just a fun song. We always do a different version of it every time we play it. And I was just talking recently to my wife about this when I told her that you agreed to do this with us and stuff. And she's like, I think the last time you guys played was at that Tony Pasco and Friends at the college.
It was fun.
Yeah, and you
great.
were a special guest, and you were gracious enough to come in and stole the show. Thank God. You know, because the show was a little flat, and then Jack came in and saved us. But we did this song, and I really think this was the last song we played together.
Well, the first time I ever heard this song was Eric Bird and the Animals, of course, and then later on, my dad, who just passed away at the age of 96, was a great rhythm guitar player. He said, well, you know, Roy Acuff did that first. And he'd heard Roy Acuff do it. And then on top of that, Josh White Jr. came down to Livingston, Alabama to do a show. We were on the same label at the time, Daywind. And not Daywind, but Silverwolf. And so Josh said, well, you know, my dad made that song famous up in the North. And that's how the Animals heard it over in England with his recording. And he played me the way Josh White Sr. did it.
Really?
And it was, which is different and really fantastic. It was that Cafe Society type of thing that Josh White Sr. did. But the way we do it is just the Jacky Jack, Tony Pasco way. Is that right?
Yeah, let's play
let's
a little
do just a little bit of it.
Okay.
There is a house in New Orleans they call the rising sun. It's been the ruin of many poor boys. Lord knows I won. My mama she was a tailor. She sewed my new blue jeans. Now Papa, he was a gambling man from just south in New Orleans. Play it, Tony. Mama, tell all your children not to do as I have done. Or you spend your life in sincere misery in the house of a rising sun. Hey, Tony, you know, one time I went down to New Orleans and I asked around. I said, is that guy still around here? Now, this is way back in the 60s, you know. They said, yeah. He lives over there on Bourbon Street. And he's singing a brand new song. Really? I said, I want to hear that. And so I went over there, and this wizened old man was over there. He's on a corner. And he had a big old Bible in his lap. And there were folks around him. And he had the biggest old smile on his wizened old face. And he was singing this here song. It went like this. He sang Amazing Grace. How sweet the sound. Saved a wretch like me. I was lost, but Jacky Jack, now I am found. Oh, and I'm just as glad as I can be. Let's do it now. Play it now. They call the rising sun. Whoa, it's been the ruin of many poor bones. Lord God, I'm so thankful that I'm not one.
Very cool. Thank you so much, buddy. I appreciate it. Thank you. God bless you.
God bless you.
And anytime you need me, I was telling them we do another Sucarnochee.
That'd be fantastic.
We'll come out and we'll have a ball.
Yeah. As always.
This is cool, but in front of an audience, we really tear it up. But thank you. I appreciate
Tony.
it.
Thank you.
Want more backstage stories? Become a member of our Patreon page. You'll get access to bonus footage, full performances, swag, and special live events where you can interact with guests. If you like what we're doing, please tell a friend and share. We really appreciate your support. This is your Backstage Pass.
What an experience. If you ever get a chance to do this, I absolutely recommend it.
100%.
Hi, good. I'm looking for Marcia.
Well, you got her right here. You must be Chrissy.
I am Chrissy.
We're talking about our book.
Yes.
God called me to go to Africa, and I would just go to Africa to minister to the people.